I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar series event from the Consortium for Innovation in Post-Harvest Loss and Food Waste Reduction. Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe to some of you all. We have an excellent webinar on tap today from three experts from KNUST. The title of the webinar is Sustainable Interventions, Loss and Waste Reduction in the Cassava, Tomato, and Maize Value Chains. Again, welcome. Just some housekeeping notes. As usual, this webinar is being recorded and it will be placed on the Consortium's website and on its YouTube channel after it's finished. We encourage you to use the chat and question and answer functions in Zoom, and panelists may be able to answer your questions and interact with you via those functions. Without further ado, I'd like to present and introduce Dr. Dirk Meyer from Iowa State University and also the director of our consortium. Dr. Meyer?
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you all for joining us for this webinar. We're very happy for all of you joining us. We have a number of participants in the seminar that are representatives and members of our consortium. Very excited to hear about the progress of research that our colleagues from KNUST have been working on over the past year and a half since the consortium began. And sustainable interventions to reduce loss and waste for smallholder farmers in the cassava, tomato, and maize value chains are indeed a key focus of our Consortium for Innovation in Post-Harvest Loss and Food Waste Reduction. Our mission is to bring together thought leaders and experts from across the globe, academia, industry, government, and nonprofit organizations to help food producers and food system stakeholders across the globe utilize resources more effectively and efficiently in preserving nutritious food, improve lives and livelihoods. And so we look forward to also your questions and your comments in the chat function and so forth. We'll have time for that. We're very grateful for our funding agencies, the Foundation for Agriculture Research, FAR, and the Rockefeller Foundation. And we're very pleased again that our colleagues from KNUST in Ghana, Professors Bobe, Rebecca Manu, and Akua will present our webinar today and give us an update of the research they have been conducting with their colleagues and with their graduate students. And I may just add a personal note saying that when we first got started, KNUST was certainly one of the first ones that we invited to join the consortium, and I had the pleasure to visit KNUST a number of times, including when they first got started identifying the projects, and they did just a wonderful job together with their students identifying kinds of projects that they were planning to work on. And so we're very excited about all the progress that they've made and look forward to hearing an update from them today. So Kyle, I think you'll tune things up for the sequence of presenters. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Meyer. We have three presentations today. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Emmanuel Bobo B. I'm really sorry. I'm awful at names, and I tried that about 100 times before, and I apologize. But take it away, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues, and welcome to our presentation from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. I'm making a presentation on the cassava mechanization in Africa, the role of the tech mechanical cassava harvester. This is a device we have developed at KNUST, and I'm presenting. My name is Emmanuel Bobobi. Poor man, you have done a great job. You pronounced my name well. So the outline of the presentation will go like this. There's challenges to large-scale commercial cassava production in Ghana and Africa. We've outline like low farm power and drudgery in agriculture, aging agricultural labor force, a slow progress in agricultural mechanization, low level of mechanized cassava production, and innovations that have been developed to address them, by myself and others, like the tech mechanical cassava harvester and others, and then the durable digging blade. This is this slide is showing the progress, all the progress in technology development and its impact on drudgery reduction in agriculture. Hello?
Dr. Bumblebee, I'm sorry, I don't think your slides are shared. So
is that so?
Yeah. So
let me see. So you are not. Are you hearing? Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear. We hear you. Just if you can share your slides now, please.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Is it shared now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
So do I start all over?
Just go from where you were. Just go from where you were.
Okay. So this slide is showing the interaction between the technology development or the progress in technology development regarding agriculture and then the drudgery reduction. So when the people or mankind was using more of the manual tools, the drudgery is the broken curve is so high. And then when we use appropriate mechanization like the draft animal power to the motorized technology, drudgery has reduced. And now that we are entering into the fourth industrial revolution, I think when we use digital technology, drudgery will be virtually negligible. So this is where Africa must also go. Now this slide is also showing the farm power typology in developing countries and then the hunger map. And then you can see there's a close relationship between farm power, where they use low farm power, there is a high risk of hunger, and where they use high farm power, there is a low risk of hunger. It is only in South Africa, which is within sub-Saharan Africa, that has high farm power use, and that is one country that is considered the first world when it comes to agricultural mechanization on the continent. This is actually showing the global distribution of cassava. You see the bulk is in Africa, but cassava is grown between latitude 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south. And the share of production based on the continent is also shown there. Now, this slide is showing the players, the key players in terms of countries that produce cassava. And Nigeria is still the leader with close to 60 million metric tons. And then Ghana is the fifth in the world, but currently our figure is about 19 million metric tons. And the bulk of them are in Africa, Dr. Congo, and then Angola, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Cameroon. And Africa's share is around 56%, more than half of the global production. But then the limitation here is that when it comes to the export and then the value-added products that go outside Africa, we are actually not visible there at all. And that is a concern for most of us. So the challenge to commercial cassava production, why we can lift it from the smallholder production to the commercial level, is that some of the challenges are the smallholder agriculture is dominant on the continent. And agriculture is a way of life, it's not treated as a business. Agricultural labor is aging in Africa, and the youth are not interested in agriculture. Cassava is planted randomly with little mechanization, and manual harvesting is predominant, and it's a very painful and stressful activity full of drudgery. And then until recently, there are no commercial mechanical cassava harvesters developed on the continent by indigenous Africans. So this graph is also, this table is also telling us that harvesting is one of the activities that takes a lot of time. I mean, more than a quarter of the man days that are required. And this is where we are coming in from the Kwame Nkrumah University to make an intervention. These are slides showing how manual harvesting is done. If the ground is soft, you can uproot it, but then the productivity is very low. If the ground seems to be hard, then you need more than one person to pull it out. And then sometimes you have to use some primitive tools also to excavate the soil. And this is actually affecting productivity on a large scale. So some of the challenges and innovations that have been developed by myself and my team at KNUST are like this. We have the research area, the challenges, and then the constraints that we are facing, the innovations we have made, and then the status of that innovation. So on the focus for the research, cassava harvesting, we want to support commercial cassava production. The challenge has been that manual harvest is tedious, painful, and full of drudgery. The innovation we have come out with is a mechanical cassava harvester with a durable blade. And then the status is that this innovation is patented and is commercialized and has to be upscaled. Then for planting root and tuber crop, we need to promote this on ridges. This is in line with Sustainable Goal 13. And the challenge is that flooding on the flat will, due to global warming and the conservation agriculture concept must be taken into consideration. Otherwise, the mature tubers or roots will be destroyed. The innovation is that we are developing a double row disc ridger to create the landform that to make this evacuation of excess moisture or retention of little precipitation possible. And we have developed a prototype, and then we need to field test it and then evaluate it, and then maybe upgrade it to commercial level. Then when you do all this to harvest rapidly, and then you have high production, you need to peel and slice before you can start any meaningful value addition. And then for that one, the challenge is that there's labor-intensive peeling. So what is the innovation? We are trying to come out with a motorized cassava peeler and a slicer. And then the status is that the prototype are developed, but then they need more testing and then final release and upscaling. So the solution regarding the cassava harvesting, the solution is that KNUST, we have come out with a mechanical cassava harvester that was invented and patented in 2013. The harvester takes 1 second to harvest a plant compared to 5 to 10 minutes to dig out manually. We have produced about 50 prototypes, and we deployed about 30 in Ghana, South Africa, Nigeria, and Jamaica. And the capacity still exists to manufacture and satisfy continental demand and even beyond. The performance of the harvest. Yeah, I'm sorry about the sound, but that shows a small demonstration of the harvesting. Now, the issue about harvesting and then, the non-attractiveness of agriculture to the youth is a drudgery. And then here we have been doing a lot of research in KNUST to calibrate drudgery. Here we use the heartbeat as a proxy for drudgery. So the slide you are seeing, you have these two profiles up, the black and then the light blue. These are the heartbeat of two women who are harvesting just 10 plants. And the red and then the move profiles are the heartbeat of the same tractor operator harvesting a quarter of a hectare of the same field, the same cassava field, the same day. The move one is the same tractor operator disking or harrowing the field a year before. So you can see that it has taken these two women almost 70 minutes to harvest 10 plants. And at the same time, the operator has virtually harvested a hectare or a quarter of a hectare. That shows the amplification of the mechanical harvester compared with the manual harvester. And this is where we have to go if we have to lift a lot of people out of poverty on the continent. These are some of the industrial products that can come out from cassava, apart from the staple product that we have been used to. And we have the alcohol for the beverages, and then we have the bioethanol also for transportation. Then we have other things, starch, and all the rest. And we can use the starch in the textile industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the plywood industry, and even the book industry, and several others. Bioplastics. Now that the plastic is becoming a nuisance, start from cassava to use for bioplastic, I think should be the way forward. If you harvest, this is how it looks like. That demonstration we saw, this is how cassava is actually uprooted, and then it's on the field to just follow and pick. And this during the time when the soil moisture content is very, very low. So, and it is a very useful intervention. The blade is the only replaceable part on this harvester, and apart from that, the whole equipment or device is for life. Now, to be able to mechanize cassava on a large scale, we need to actually grow them or plant them on ridges, and this is developing the ridges. So if you do the ridging, it will help with getting a very environment for the roots to develop that to later on bulk into big roots. Then later on, if it rains too, like if it rains heavily, the furrows serve as drainage channels to evacuate excess moisture. In the event of little precipitation, the moisture will remain in the furrows and then reach out to the root zone. So this is a conservation agricultural intervention. Now, if you plant like this, then we have the furrows wide apart for the tractor ties to walk through and then be able to evacuate or excavate the plant. And this is actually a plus for the mechanized harvesting. Now, this is the way we want cassava to be planted in future, in rows and then on ridges. This is our field at the KNUST where we use a drone to take. It's about 10 acres, different varieties. Now we don't have a ridger because the whole complement of mechanization is not actually adopted or promoted seriously. So when we need a ridger, we don't have one. So we have to develop one with our student. And there, the student in the blue here is the one who developed this for his thesis. We are going to upgrade this and then use it to promote cassava cultivation on ridges. This is a short video also of how the yeah, so this is you ridge and then you plant like this. So we have developed the ridger. We don't need to import it again, but we are working on that one to make it available commercially. Now, after doing all this, we harvest cassava. The first step to make it available for processing or for foliar additions, it must be peeled. And this slide is showing how women and little children are involved in the peeling, and it takes a lot of time. And this is what must be also removed so that the peeling can be mechanized. And we are working on that one. And this is just a small video of
Let us remove more, because for
so this
no, it's you know the opening.
The peeling can be rapid. We remove all the bottlenecks of the peel. Now this is what it looks like, and this is the model of the vertical one that we are working on. Now, because we want to take cassava just from a food security crop to an industrial crop, the starch is the most important component. So we have started some experiment work on our research field. We are trying to profile the starch content for some 6 varieties from age 7 months after planting to 13. And then you can see there's a rise up to 12 months after planting, and then there's a decline, which means that to make cassava industrial crop now, you don't let it stay in the soil as long as over 12 months has been practiced traditionally. These are just some slides showing the demonstration in South Africa because the technology has been extended there. People have not seen cassava before, but then they were excited to see it. This is a demonstration in Nigeria. I mean, to see the technology being used. This is a visit by FO delegation in Ghana, from delegates from 10 countries to see what we are doing at our university. This is, in fact, the top here. This is the present vice president of the country, and then the Minister of Agriculture listening to a demonstration, an explanation on the performance of the harvester at a trade fair 3 years ago. And this one, the former Minister of Agriculture, who commissioned the first generation of the harvesters in 2013. now, I mean, all this this work, we actually call for multidisciplinary research and development collaboration to satisfy some of the sustainable development goals. So we want to work on the development of a durable and a well-resistant soil engaging parts with our colleagues in the material science department to in line with sustainable goal 9, entrepreneurship, innovation, and the rest. Then we are working with our colleagues in the geomatic department for this sort of climate resilience studies using drone and then the rest. We are working on the value chain, value addition, job creation, entrepreneurship. This is a new paradigm so that students who will graduate can take up some of these jobs immediately without waiting for any white-collar jobs. We are collaborating with some
It seems like we lost Professor Bobobi.
security crop to an export crop.
Back.
Is it time?
No, we lost you for a second, but you've come back. So keep going.
Okay, so I'm on the concluding slide that this is the first mechanical cassava harvester developed in Ghana for Africa and then for Ghanaians. Then we are pleading with African governments and the development partners to develop cassava from just a food security crop to an export crop. Then we feel the well-developed cassava industry can become a multi-billion or even a multi-trillion industry for the continent. And the tech mechanical cassava harvester must be promoted because it serves to uproot other crops like yam and other yam, sweet potato, and then cocoyam. The research teams that we have, we need support to train farmers and operators, especially to adopt the technology. In fact, where we have reached now is actually to train farmers and operators to extend the technology so that they can, develop the land and others for farmers appropriately to reduce drudgery. And then we need cassava farmers and operators to support the use of the technology. I mean, in conclusion, we want to say that actually Africa has the land and then the people and must adopt agricultural mechanization technologies to attract the youth and turn agriculture into a multi-billion industry on the continent. I think, thank you so much for your attention. This is the end.
Thank you, Professor, and really appreciate the presentation. There are a couple of questions for you in the chat, in the question and answer. We're going to have a question and answer at the end, but if you'd like to answer those on your in the chat, or that would be great. And so now we're going to move in a different direction with Mr. Joseph Agbozume. So take it away, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl, for the opportunity, and also I want to say big good afternoon from Ghana to all our colleagues who have joined this webinar. So as Carl indicated, my name is Joseph Agbozume, and I'm one of the researchers on this consortium here at KNUST. And this afternoon, I'll be presenting on the economic and technical assessment of low capacity drying systems that we encourage our smallholder farmers to use to address post-harvest losses. So my presentation will follow the format of looking in terms of production trend in maize in Ghana, the challenges our smallholder farmers face with respect to patronizing commercial drying services using the open sun traditional method and other drying options which we will seek to encourage them to use. And then we'll look at the interventions that we have sort of looked at to help address the challenges that our smallholder farmers are facing, looking at some of the developed systems that we have been working on here in KNUST. And then we'll provide some results on some of the performance analysis or performance assessment that we've done on these small capacity drying systems. And obviously look in terms of whether these systems are, from the business point of view, economically viable for our smallholder farmers to adopt or for entrepreneurs to upskill and commercialize. In terms of the production trend, from 1960, we realized that maize production have been increasing. And we realized that in terms of the increase, we've been exceeding about 1 million metric tons since 2000. And this has, over the last decade, averaged to about 1.9 million tons. Maize is a very important cereal crop here in Ghana, and it serves as a source of income and food, and also an input to our industrial production or processing. Most of the farmers who are into maize production in Ghana are predominantly smallholder farmers. They constitute over 90% of the production force. And in terms of drying of maize, we have some installed commercial facilities to ensure we are able to address the drying problems of our smallholder farmers. However, we would seldomly see our smallholder farmers patronizing these installed commercial drying services. And the question that will be asked is why these smallholder farmers are not, utilizing these services that have been installed in their communities to help address their drying challenges. One would have to do with the capacity to meet the needs of these over 90% of smallholder populations within these communities. Their numbers are so large, these drying facilities are not enough to meet their needs. The other has to do with the drying charges or the drying costs. Sometimes it's so expensive, okay, and so therefore they tend to continue to use a traditional method. And sometimes these facilities are way away from their communities, where they have to transport their grains to these drying facilities and then transport them back. They look at the cost implications, and it's sort of serve as a disincentive for them patronizing these drying services. So therefore, this has encouraged the continuous dependence on the traditional method, which I say is a status quo. So we look at, in terms of here in Ghana, we have two production seasons, the major season and then the minor season. Obviously, because our farmers are not relying on any sort of technology to address the drying challenges, we have issues of contamination as a result of open drying, particularly during the major season, where the grains are spread in open. When the rains come, obviously they have to cover them, and as a result of not providing favorable drying conditions, you see grains being contaminated, some being germinated. Also, during the minor season, because the sun is available, they tend to leave the grain to over dry on the field, leading to insect infestation. So the bottom line is that as farmers continue to rely on the status quo, we have issues of quantity loss due to improper drying and quality loss as a result of mold, insect infestation, and therefore resulting in the farmer losing a lot of money. The alternative that we've been looking at is to go to the use of solar dryers, which we believe could bridge the gap. However, we know solar drying systems virtually depend on the sun, and so has resulted in a lot of solar dryers having low capacity and low power in terms of their ability to dry grains effectively. And this has resulted in our inability to commercialize solar dryers in Ghana, of course, because if we are going to rely on the weather, especially during the major season where we want to effectively dry the grain, without the sun, we realize that you have a lot of challenges. So this has really been a major problem as far as our smallholder farmers drying their grains are concerned. So the research trend now is to look at how we can provide a system that could address all these challenges that I have enumerated. And so therefore, we want our smallholder farmers to have systems that could meet or guarantee the quality of their grains, and it's affordable for them to also patronize or use. So in view of this, myself and then some of my colleagues and our students have been working on developing small capacity drying systems that could meet the drying quality of our farmers and also be affordable or be within a range that will be enough for them to purchase and then use for their drying needs. One of these drying systems is what I describe as a tech solar biomass hybrid dryer. This is a greenhouse tent unit which is covered with transparent or perspex or acrylic material that is able to retain enough heat when the sun is very high or when we have enough sunshine. And again, because we have the challenge of sometimes the sun not being available, we then rely on the availability of agricultural residue like the corn cobs, cocoa husks, groundnut husks, and other stuff that you find in the community to burn to generate enough heat, which can help continue the drying process. So this sort of come as handy in terms of drying when you have enough sunshine, and also continue the drying process. So irrespective of the weather, you are able to continue your drying process. Basically, this is how it operates. Like I indicated, I mean, with the sun available, it generates enough, temperature within the solar tent dryer to be able to dry your crops, reducing the moisture from say 18-20 at harvest to about 12 to about 14% after drying. In the absence of the sun, you are able to rely on these available, biomass or agro residues within the community to continue to provide the required energy for your drying purposes. As we try to look in terms of how we can make these systems available, we look at systems that may be affordable, that can be within the needs of the farmer. So we've developed simple versions of the bigger one, which is about 3 to 5 tons. This is about just 1 ton, and operating on the same principle as one that I did mention earlier. But it is mobile in the sense that you're able to, hitch it to your tractor, just like we do with our shelling services within the communities. You can hitch it to your tractor and provide drying services in the community. Because one of the challenges I mentioned has to do with the proximity of the dryers to the farmer. So therefore, this can be available at the doorstep of the farmer to continue or to provide the drying needs of the farmer. This is a maximum of about 1 ton capacity, and it also uses the sun energy and then biomass energy for drying. The other we've been working on is the Tech Flatbed Biomass Assisted Dryer, 2 to 3 ton capacity, within, or basically designed to operate within the needs of our smallholder farmer. It also uses the biomass version of the hybrid system, and so we provide a drying bed with the heat energy going through a plenum and forcing it through the drying bed, and by then, absorbing the moisture that is in the grain, and then we are able to effect the drying. So these are all systems that we are working on. We've also been looking at prototyping, developing prototypes of the Aflastop design. We've developed our version here at KNUST, which we've been working with our students to perfect in terms of its performance. We've worked also to develop prototypes of the SR column dryer. So we've more or less look at the designs we have in the Vietnamese and then the Bangladesh, and then created our own design, which we have also been prototype and been working to look at its performance and its economic viability. So in terms of the assessment of these drying systems, we've come to realize that indeed they are able to provide the required temperature conditions that is able to dry the crops, vis-a-vis our farmers relying on the open sun, where the weather conditions are what basically could be a challenge as far as the drying of the grains are concerned. So with what we have realized, for example, using the 3 to 5 ton capacity to assess its performance, we realized that we could dry grains from about 25% moisture content in about 14 hours to 12, 13 on average within the different levels that are in the dryer, compared to the open sun, which also was about 14%. So in the absence of having the opportunity to rely on the open sun drying system, these drying systems comes as handy to help address the drying challenges or the drying needs of our farmers. Same assessment was done with the mobile version, and we realized that the overall mean temperature inside was about 22 degrees higher. So what it signals is that obviously during periods where you are not able to use your open sun to dry your grains, these drying systems could be available for farmers to continue drying their grains to reduce the losses that they encounter as a result of relying on the traditional open sun method. Obviously, looking in terms of the performance of the mobile version, we realized that we could dry grains from 19% to about 13% within 5 hours, compared to drying grains in the open sun at the same time, which took about 15 hours, resulting in an average drying rate of about 1.2% per hour for the mobile version, compared to about 0.4% per hour for drying in the open sun. So obviously, you could see in terms of the capacity, these dryers could serve as something which will help our smallholder farmers be able to meet their drying needs. Assessment on the Tech Flatbed Dryer also follow the same suit. I mean, in terms of its drying performance, we were able to generate temperatures of about 56 degrees compared to the ambient, which was about 26 degrees, and help to dry grains from about 18% to about 13% in 5 hours, removing 1 percentage point of moisture per hour. And so therefore, this goes to say that obviously with this small capacity drying systems, it's sort of provide, opportunity for our farmers to have access to their address their drying needs as far as, their maize grains are concerned. Then the column dryer also basically was assessed. And then if you look in terms of its performance, again, it followed the same trend. We were able to dry our grains from 22.3% to about 13% in 5 hours at an average drying rate of about 1.8%. And so all these are just signals that obviously having been able to develop these simple drying systems, it gives confidence, or we are able to sort of provide confidence to our farmers that indeed the performance of these drying systems are good and it can guarantee the quality that they expect as far as the drying of their grains are concerned. But then what is important is to how we can demonstrate to them whether these drying systems are financially viable for them to invest in, especially with our smallholder farmers looking at their purchasing power, or for investors or entrepreneurs to also have the conviction that they can invest into these drying systems to provide drying needs for our farmers within the community. So we sought to perform some economic appraisal on this drying system and looking at a scenario of a smallholder farmer in Ghana who will normally have a farm size of about 2 hectares. And then, of course, in terms of this analysis, using the column drying system, he would want to dry his grains to have a premium price, because that is the incentive that they seek to have. If you purchase a dryer, you would expect that when you are able to dry it to meet the quality of the buyer, then you should be able to have enough income in your pocket. And also to be able to use such dryers to provide drying services that can also generate revenue for them. Obviously, when they have access to these dryers, it should be enough to meet their drying needs, but then they can also continue to use these dryers to provide drying services to their colleagues who may not have access to these drying systems. And what did we use to be able to appraise this economic analysis is economic indicators such as NPV, IRR, payback period, benefit cost ratio. These are economic indicators that are critical to be able to, perform any justification of any investments into any technology. And we did some sensitivity analysis to look at if there are changes in terms of investment costs, in terms of price variation, and then the discount rates. The table here sort of tried to look in terms of the assumptions and then some of the technical parameters that were used in the analysis of the economic assessment. So we're looking at using a capacity of a column dryer of about 0.5 ton. The number of batches expected, per day to using this should be 2. Obviously, in terms of the quantity of grains that could be dried in a year, from our analysis, we realized that you could use this system to dry about 72 tons of maize within the community. Having estimated in this one using the minimum of the production capacity in some of our producing areas, 20,000 metric tons of maize produced in an area. We realize that these dryers, if it's sort of are invested into, we could provide about 278 of such dryers to meet the drying needs of these 20,000 metric tons of maize that may be produced in the community. This is job opportunity for the youth, for investors within such communities. The economic appraisal was very positive, looking at using a 10-year operation cycle. We realized that the NPV was about $1,633, an IRR of 71%, which is positive. A payback period for you to be able to recoup your investment was about 1.5 years, and a benefit cost ratio of about 2.83. These are all positive indication or positive indicators that would give confidence to investors or to farmers. Having realized that the performance of these dryers are good, of course, they would be able to invest their monies into purchasing these dryers to provide drying services for their needs. Again, I did mention that one of the disincentive for farmers not patronizing the commercial systems has to do with the high drying charges. And so in terms of our sensitivity analysis, we sought to look at what could be the basic minimum charge one who is providing drying services using dryers could charge. And we realized that with our base case scenario of about $0.9 per bag of maize dried, of course, we realized that our NPV, our payback period, and benefit cost ratio were all positive, which is a good indication. However, when you reduce the drying charge by 20% to $0.75 per bag of maize dried, we still realized that the NPV, though reduced, was still positive. IRR was about 53%. It's just that your payback period may increase, of course, to about 2 years, but then it still gives you a positive signal. This shows that even if you should increase the price a bit further, you are going to get positive outputs. In terms of the discount rate, which is very important, using 14%, we saw positive outlooks in terms of the economic indicators. However, discount rate sometimes may vary. So in a country where we have our discount rate sometimes varying over the years, it was important to perform some analysis to see if the discount rate should increase to about 21 or 28, whether our economic indicators will still be a positive outlook for investors or for farmers to continue to invest into purchasing these drying services. And obviously, IRR was not varied due to discount rate. The payback period was also not varied due to discount rate. However, your NPV will reduce as the discount rate increases, and then your benefit cost ratio also reduces as the discount rate increases. Then we start to look at in terms of the investment cost, which is very important. I mean, we know in terms of material prices, labor and other things over a period, it may change due to the discount.
Who is that?
And so therefore, we look in terms of the base case, which for the manufacture of this dryer was about $604. We realized that we had all these positive outlook. However, when we increase the cost over the years to about 20% of the base cost, we realized that we were still having positive indicators in terms of our NPV and an IRR. It is only the payback period that's up to increase, and this follows through when the investment cost increases to about 50% and also about 80%, showing that in all these, if we should even go above 80% of the base cost, you'll still be able to invest into these drying services and be able to have some kind of a revenue that was positive. Similar scenario or similar analysis was done for the flatbed dryer. And indeed, I should say that all were positive, giving us indication that these small drying systems have more or less an economic incentive for farmers or for entrepreneurs to invest into them. So not to very much on what are the indicators for the flatbed dryer, I would want to move on to my conclusion and say that in terms of the systems that we have developed, they have the potential to contribute to the drying needs of smallholder farmers in reducing post-harvest losses along the maize value chain in Ghana. Additionally, the economic analysis have shown that the dryers have the potential of providing an economically viable drying option for smallholder farmers in Ghana, in addition to entrepreneurs. In effect, such small drying systems, are able to provide environmental benefits because we are utilizing our agro residues to generate the required heat, particularly when the weather or when we don't have enough sunshine. Again, looking at the numbers of such small systems that are required in our communities, it provides some opportunity for job generation for our youth and then for entrepreneurs. And therefore, farmers who rely on such systems are also able to get improvement in their livelihood due to income from the sale of premium produce that they have been able to produce as a result of utilizing these drying systems. I want to thank you for your attention, for listening to me. Thank you very much. That is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Joseph. As always, if you have any questions for Joseph, put them in the chat or in the question and answer function, and he'll try to answer those. We will also have a question and answer function live at the end, but I would like to turn now to Dr. Dufi Wirinko Manu and for her presentation. Testina?
Hello, Kelly. Thank you very much for the introduction. I am Faustina Dufi Rakumenu. I'm a lecturer at the Department of Food Science and Technology at KNUST. And today I'm presenting to you value addition and product development from edible waste of tomato, maize, and cassava. I will briefly look at the relevance of these commodities, their production, consumption, and then losses, and then management, post-harvest management that have been proposed, and then I'll focus on value addition. So as you all bear with me, tomato, maize, and cassava are very important commodities in the world, and especially in our part of the world, Africa. It contributes so much to human and animal nutrition, food security, poverty alleviation, as a source of income, especially looking along the value chain, the kind of jobs that are created. And then by so doing, they contribute so much to our GDP. When we take tomatoes, tomatoes is the world's largest vegetable crop that is very important in Ghana. It has a similar significance in Ghana. It is the highest vegetable that is consumed. And it is good in the sense that it provides very good minerals, vitamins, and especially antioxidant micronutrients like beta carotene and then lycopene. Production of tomato has been increasing over the years, as you can see on this graph. And currently we are doing around 400,000 metric tons. In 2018, it was around 380,000 metric tons. And it continues. So there's increase, but unfortunately, we are consuming, unfortunately or unfortunately, we are consuming more tomato than we produce. So we spend quite an amount of money importing fresh tomatoes and then even processed tomatoes into the country. The irony is that we have about 14 to 40% of our tomato going waste annually. And this is where value addition is very critical. And I believe that if technologies developed are harnessed at the community level, then we can convert these edible wastes into value-added products. The same can be said of cassava that provides a very cheap source of calories and very important in tropical Africa. And in Ghana, about 70% of farming populations are actually cultivating cassava. That shows its relevance, and it contributes significantly to about 20% of it to agriculture GDP. Just as we had in tomato, cassava production is also increasing, and we have over 20 million metric tons of cassava being produced. Only small quantity is actually exported in different forms. And then we have the demand, industrial demand being hyped. Now, the industrial demand is so high for cassava, but again, we still have the post-harvest losses being quite high. About over 33% of cassava that is harvested is actually lost. And again, we need to add value to these losses so that the farmer can have value for what they do. In terms of maize, we all know that maize is very important. And in Ghana, we have over 50% of it, of cereals that are produced coming from maize. And it contributes so much to our nutritional needs. But basically, most of these commodities we have, they are used in traditional products, and not much value is added to them. And that is why we see a lot of losses. Maize is also increasing in terms of production, and we spend or we consume about 1.9 million metric tons of maize annually. And even with that, we still import some amount of maize. And then the losses are around 18%, which is quite high, even though it's smaller than the other commodities. I believe that a lot can be done about this. So in a nutshell, the summary on the overview is that there's a lot of losses that could be channeled into something good for good livelihood of the farmer and even consumers, because once the value is added to it, everybody benefits. Over the years, there has been a lot of interventions, including good agriculture practices, proper handling practices, good transport systems and all that. But the value addition has not gotten to the level that we really want. And I think that is what will do the magic. Because when you add value, you actually increase the economic value of your crop. And then it also comes in diverse forms. so that you can have a number of consumers coming for your produce. It is when you add value, you also extend the shelf life, and then you reduce, of course, deterioration and other benefits as well. The good thing about value addition that I love so much is that at the end of the day, both the producer and the consumer are satisfied, they are happy, because they are getting quality products for a good price, and also they are also getting value for the produce that they make in terms of farmers. So value addition could be in a form of packaging, where you employ efficient packaging systems to protect your product, to facilitate handling, and also support wholesale and retail marketing. So we have vacuum packaging, modified atmosphere packaging, and control atmosphere packaging. These are not very common in our part of the world, but then I think with the increase of malls and supermarkets and people getting busy, especially women getting busy, this is the way that we should go. We have to package our produce in such a way that they can reach to the supermarket, and then other consumers can also have access to it. Value addition could also be in the form of processing and product development. And in this slide, you see cassava being converted to flour, and then the flour being used for other products. In Ghana now, there are a lot of people who are going into pastry products or products that are wheat-based. We don't produce wheat. So it is very good that we add value in terms of turning our cassava into flour, so that it can be used for this product to feed the populace, and then we can get the benefits. So from now on, I'm going to talk briefly on some of the works that have been done in our department. This is a work that was done using concrete solar dryer to dry fresh tomatoes, to dry tomatoes that can stay for longer period. And this is a PhD student that worked on this. And when you mill the dried tomato, you realize that the color is good. The taste is also good, because we use it for in products like the popular jollof that we have in tomato stew, and then consumers liked it. It was not so much different from using the fresh produce. And we also had an opportunity to train some youth in Bro and Hartford, one of the regions in Ghana, on adding value to tomatoes and other commodities, because these commodities are grown in large quantities in those areas. So we had about 800 students that were trained adding value to tomatoes. So we taught them how to dry, simply using solar dryer, and then making tomato juice out of the fresh tomatoes. And I know that tomato juice is not very common here, but now that a lot of people are becoming health conscious, I believe that tomato juice, if somebody should go into it, will make money, and it will do a very good business. Then we also taught them how to make tomato paste, tomato puree, dried tomato that I've talked about before, and then tomato sauce. This is a picture of some of the products that were developed, and then a small group of the people that we train, the youth that we train. In terms of cassava, we could have waxing of the roots. Now, as I said, we have a lot of malls that are springing up, and then a lot of people may need cassava in this raw form, but then going to the main markets that are overcrowded is a problem for a lot of people. So waxing could be a way forward, where we can wax a portion of or a percentage of a cassava and then have markets for them at our supermarket. Then there was also a project that we did that worked on improving existing cassava products, where we produce all-purpose cassava flour, and then it was used in different products like the baked wheat-based products. And then we improved some of our traditional products, being ayakayaka, banchika crew, and then even thickener, converting cassava root into thickener, soup thickener, stew thickener, already Ghanaians are using wheat. And as I said, we don't produce wheat, and you can get a better techno even from cassava flour. Then there was also production of a drink from the juice of cassava that was produced, and it was liked by a number of panelists, the panelists that were employed. And then we also produced cassava-based complementary food using soya bean and then fruits and cashew to improve the nutritional value of it. Then we also had biscuit called Agbozume Biscuits. It is a biscuit that is very popular in one of the regions in Ghana, and it is mainly cassava and then coconuts that is used to produce it. So we fortified it with orange flesh, sweet potato, and then cowpea just to boost the nutritional value of it. So cassava could be used in different products, as we can see on this slide. And the technology is there for us to do so, and then improve the livelihood of farmers and even consumers. We have here different products like gari, kokonte, fufu flour. Already, fufu flour is usually at the community level or at the home level. We produce fufu right from the raw materials, but this is fufu flour that you can turn your fufu in a very short period and then enjoy with your family, especially for busy mothers, for busy families. So it's kokonte when it is well packaged. What we have on our market is the way even it is produced, unhygienic, but then we have a system that we can produce a very hygienic kokonte and package it very, very well, nicely and protectively, hygienically for consumers. Then there's cassava beer that is becoming popular in Ghana. One of the brewery companies is producing cassava beer, and I've not drank some before, but then those who have done so attest to it that it is very good, and it's producing, it's really having markets out there. And then we have maize products. With the use of this small vacuum packaging, we did some small work on vacuum packaged Fanti Kenke. Fanti Kenke is a fermented product from maize, and it usually stays for 2 to 3 days, 4 days maximum. But then when you vacuum package, it can stay for about 25 days. This very simple equipment could extend the shelf life. There are a lot of people who are busy. They want to have their food produce or their products within the week. They go and buy for the week. And if you're not careful, you buy Kenke for beginning of the week. By the close of the week, everything is gone, it's spoiled. So this technology will be good for people to be able to stock their homes with what they want to eat. And then we also produce a number of local products. We have maize, fresh maize drink. This is quite new. It is not very common, fresh maize drink, and those who consumed it liked it so much. And then we have Tom Brown, which is a Winnie mix for children or adults, and for different categories of people. We have Jeho mix, and then we have Banku mix. These products take a long time to prepare, and when you have them in convenient forms like this, well packaged, I believe the consumer will be happy to have them. These are some of the traditional drinks. This is a snack from maize with groundnut and other spices, and then we have the Asana drink, which is also from, there are a lot of drinks that are coming on our market. Sometimes you don't even know where they are coming from because the labeling alone, there is no English. You can't read, you don't know what is in there, and people are consuming. We don't know the health implications of all these. These are traditional things that are very good. Our people like them, and therefore, if we go into them, I believe that it will fetch us a lot of businesses, a lot of satisfaction for both consumer and then the farmer. And of course, we have the highly valued products, commercial product that could also be done from maize. Then we could also talk of novel products from these edible wastes, being compost. We can have compost or manure from any of them, especially when they get to a stage that you can do nothing about it. you are just losing them. Then it could be converted. We could also have biodegradable tomato packaging material, for instance, as somebody was saying, cassava. We could develop a packaging material instead of the plastic to enhance our environment or to lessen the burden on our environment. And then also developing new food additives out of these commodities, and then animal feed, especially from grains and then from cassava. So in conclusion, I would say that the problem of edible food loss is imminent, and it has a lot of negative impact on our food and nutrition security. But there are a lot of technologies, simple technologies that can be adopted at the community level by the farmer to add value, so that it will reduce these losses, and it will also turn these waste into value-added products that can fetch them something. So what is actually needed is that we need investment in sustainable uptake. And when I say sustainable uptake, I'm talking about having the right facilities at the community level, being owned by farmers, by entrepreneurs, by the youth, to run the enterprise for the benefit of all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faustina.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. And now I know we've been going for about an hour, but I'd like to have a question and answer session. So I hope you'd like to bear with us for another 15 minutes or so here. And so I'm gonna throw it over to Dr. Meyer for a question. And you can ask your questions in the chat or the question and answer function. And thank you to the panelists who have already been answering questions. So go ahead.
No, I think this has been really excellent. And I want to thank all three of our colleagues from KNUST for their wonderful presentations. Also, the chat has been incredibly busy with people interacting on all kinds of aspects of the presentations, which is wonderful. And I think this has been a great presentation overall through the entire value chain, right? From the production with the advanced harvesting technology through the post-harvest preservation to the value-added processing. And so I think the KNUST team represents the kind of value chain activity in three key areas that is of interest to the consortium. My question to each of the panelists, if they could each speak briefly too, is what's the level of involvement of graduate students in your projects, and what type of opportunities do your graduate students have taking the knowledge and the training to industry or government? What's the situation in Ghana on that aspect?
Well, so maybe if I should take the first bite, with respect to these drying technologies that we've been working on, I normally work with graduate students to look at, especially looking into the economic, viability options, so as to be able to look at the business opportunities that will come out of it. Over the years, obviously, I've had opportunity for graduate students who have worked on some of these drying systems to put in some kind of proposals to look at how they can set up their own sort of drying businesses from the systems that we have developed, and then also looking at how they could use these systems to provide drying services for farmers in our community. So it's been very encouraging, obviously, looking at the prospects in terms of how we can address the drying challenges as far as our smallholder farmers are concerned. So I would say that it's been very encouraging in terms of their participation, and those who have the entrepreneurial skills, always looking into the economic aspect, the business aspects, they tend to sort of appreciate, so that they can easily make a business out of their studies in terms of the drying system. Yeah, thank you.
Emmanuel, I think you're muted.
Yes, I think thanks so much, Maya, for that question. For the involvement of our students, I think all along, for me, I've been working with graduate students on these technologies for their degrees and then the rest. And then most of them are now becoming up-and-coming experts in these areas, like in the harvesting technology, and then even the ridger development, and then the pillar development. These are all graduate student projects. The problem we have, or that my lamentation is that for employment purpose, we need to actually change the mindset of the small scale producers to adopt the new methodology of planting cassava in the way that can be mechanized in terms of weeding and then harvesting, so that if this is done, in fact, some of these students can even become entrepreneurs, or they employ themselves and work with some segment of the farming population that can take up this technology and then produce cassava for industry. So the missing link in the major uptake of this technology, I see, is how to extend the knowledge or the protocols that we have developed now among the smallholder farmers nationwide, so that if this methodology is adopted, then all the students we are training, plus those that are yet to be trained, will just take out some constituencies or segment of the population and then live on that and then extend the technology and then work very well. The pillar and then the ridger, if we do it and then we have perfected it, the students who have taken up degrees in them can even set up manufacturing enterprises or setups to produce this for sale. So the possibilities are just there. But first of all, there must be a groundswell of support to adopt the new methodology we are talking about. Then the sky is the limit. And we hope Consortium can also assist in actually extending this frontier so that what we are doing here actually becomes a sustainable project across the continent. Thanks.
Well, can I add one or two things?
Please, please.
Just to add to it, for us, our students are rightly involved. We do it right from the beginning with them. And I can assure you that some of our students are even in businesses, producing some of these products. There's the PhD student who worked on the dry tomatoes, currently is an advocate for the tomato industry, trying to negotiate at different levels for policies to be enacted in the benefit of farmers, and then in terms of value addition and all that. And then we have students who are also into business, not in tomato or maize and other, but other commodities. For instance, we have a number of our students doing yogurt production, adding sweet potato, rain-flaked sweet potato that has high vitamin A composition. And there are other things that our students take it up and then set up their own small businesses. So students are involved right from the beginning.
Very good. We have a question here from Jessica Crawford, who's with Self-Help International. They have an office right there in Kumasi. I think several of you know her. She's asking, are you looking for opportunities to partner with NGOs or other community partners to help take these technologies directly to smallholder farmers? Are you engaging with some NGOs or some other partners on your efforts as well?
Well, okay, first you can go ahead.
Okay, all right. I think for us on the tomato and then the maize and other commodities, as I said, we had a project which was being sponsored by ENI, and we were to train about 800 students, 800 youths in one of the regions. So these are some of the things that we do. We get opportunities to take the technology to the farmer, to the community, to the youth at the community level, to train them, to take them up. But the problem has always been after the training, getting the sustainable uptake, people going into the businesses because of money issues, which sometimes is difficult for us. So we will use this platform to still solicit for people who support NGOs and even government to institute facilities facilities. We can put farmers together in groups, and then they can have a facility in a community, 2-3 communities having one facility. Then farmers will just aggregate all their waste. Is it not waste? Their excesses, and then they turn them into value-added products. So we do that, but then we still need support to make it a reality, especially at the community level. So Joe, you can please continue.
Yes, so I would also want to say that through the effort and collaboration with some NGOs like ADRA, we've been able to install some of these drying facilities in about 3 communities here. I think recently we had women in agriculture, poultry, somewhere in Ghana, also looking for some of the flatbed type of drying system, and we're currently working with them to get this installed for them. So in effect, we are open up for that type of collaboration with NGOs who sort of find, in terms of the research output from what we have done, very interesting to take to the communities, where we can then engage with the communities and provide some of these services to them. So I would say that it's been positive so far with the NGOs that we've worked with, and we are open to NGOs who would want to also work with us to transfer some of these technologies to our smallholder farms.
On my part, I have not had much collaboration or involvement with the NGOs as with regards to the technologies I've developed, but that is my wish, so that we can extend the appropriate or the proper use of these technologies among the end users, especially the small scale producers, so that when they adopt it, then the whole thing becomes some sort of sustainable income generation activity for the farmer. He will spend less time in wasting the energy in doing the tedious manual work. The tractor owner and the operator will have time to work all year round. They will plow and then do the harvesting. And even the exporters and then the processors of cassava will have all year round supply. So in fact, that is the only missing link for the total adoption of my technology. That is the bulk of the end user who are the smallholder farmers. They must be prepared to shift from their traditional haphazard planting to adopting the modern one, which will now unleash all these tractor operators and owners, and then even tractor the manufacturers and their agents to have a wider client base to work with. So in fact, any collaboration with NGOs or development partners to push further the frontier of the skill training among farmers is the most welcome news I'm looking forward to hear. Thank you.
There's a follow-up question I think I can catch here for Professor Bobe, and that would be, I think, what's the smallest tractor horsepower, right? I mean, that might be required for a cassava harvester. We saw the tractor sizes that you used, and we're kind of familiar with the type of tractors that are typically used for disking and plowing. What is the smallest horsepower with which you can do a mechanized cassava harvesting?
Thank you, Dick. Actually, the smallest tractor horsepower that this can pull, this harvester, is the one that will pull the existing 3 bottom plows or the other primary tillage implements in the system. So any tractor that is able to pull the existing plows, this plow that is common, will be able to pull it, because a tractor that has a power rating between 60 to 75 horsepower is adequate to pull this implement. And the weight of this implement is low. It's lower than that of the plow, but because it goes beneath the root cluster, so the soil volume it excavates, that increases the draft. So, but it is able to work or to be pulled by any of the existing small scale or small horsepower tractor existing among the farmers on the continent.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
The point here is that somebody asked about a tiller, which of course is a very small garden tool or so. Those are all way too small. You have to have, in order to make this work. Have a tractor of the size that you described, 50 to 70 horsepower, something like that. So yeah.
Yes, yes. I mean, the only thing is that we don't need a dedicated high horsepower tractor, but we don't even need to go down to a smaller tractor because the way it has to, the root cluster of the cassava goes sometimes up to 30 to 40 centimeters. And to be able to get to this depth and excavate, a smaller horsepower tractor will not be able to generate this draft. So the existing ones that are used, I mean, that is all. But if you want to scale it down, the root cluster, because of the morphology of some of the roots, will be difficult to be excavated, and then it will cost a lot of damage that can accelerate the post-harvest deterioration. So we will cope with the existing tractors, and then I think that to be
Very good. Well, Kyle, we're at about 10:15, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. But I'll just say thank you so much to Professors Bobe and Viracoa and Akabua from KNUST for being with us this morning or today. I really learned a lot, and I really appreciated this update on these presentations and the research that's going on at KNUST on the projects related to our consortium. So, Kyle.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer, and I just wanted to thank all the participants and all the panelists. We had 3 excellent presentations. This webinar will be up on our website as soon as we can get it up there, hopefully today. If you'd like to contact us or any of the participants, please get in touch with the consortium. That can be done through our website as well. I just want to plug one more webinar and put it on your radar screen. The consortium and its partners have a global call to action on November 24th at 9:30 GMT. That's Ghana time. So at 9:30 GMT on the 24th, there's another webinar that's going to be run by our Wageningen partners. Again, thank you very much to the participants. Thank you, and we will see you again. The next consortium webinar will be in January, to be determined what date yet. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Thanks for participating. It was great participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.